coming with the implosion of our imperium, and it's coming with the rapid degradation of the ecosystem itself. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's how we cope with this change. Will we respond rationally? Will we learn to speak to the world with a new humility and recreate structures within our own communities for sustainability? Or will we continue to live in illusion? And in a way, it's a matter of awakening ourselves to our new reality and responding to it.
People. Ooh. Boo 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 boo. All right. We're here, but we're not going to let it run on too long. No, we're not, because we got things to talk about. We got stuff to do today. It seems like there's going to be a lot of stuff going on because we got a focused stream. Yee! Nice. Well, welcome back to another episode. A very selective episode, because apparently there's some stuff going on in the world today that you apparently may need to know about. Yes, there has been some updates in the Twitter files. That is right, the Twitter files. I know you're probably wondering when that shit was going to come back up, and well, guess what? It did. So congratulations to all you people that thought it was going to come up, but unfortunately, these are not Fauci files. These are not files that have anything to do with the Faucinator, which I have been waiting for a very, very long time. And I'm even like Rusty Dufresne out there being all like, "My Russia, where's my Russia?" I don't know where my Russia is, but we're here. I see we have a few folks hanging out over there. I got eyeballs from J.R. Riggs. We got some eyeballs from Rusty Dufresne. So hopefully you guys are ready to at least check this stuff out. So looking at what we actually got going on here, it's pretty interesting to see that there's some new stuff. And it's okay, sure, you're not late. You made it here just on time. So without further ado, we have ourselves a new version of the Twitter files. Number 14. Apparently, they're calling it the Russiagate Lies. 1, the fake tale of Russian bots, and the release the memo hashtag. Whoa, release the memo hashtag, dude? Nah, man, you guys are talking about the release the memo hashtag? For anybody that doesn't remember, I have a few different things that have put up. But yes, it was around January 19th that all of the news media in almost collective unison was speaking out against a memo that was supposedly going to be released. And there was a huge right-wing conspiracy associated with it. It got reported in the Rolling Stone, on Vice, the Daily Beast, so many different places. And they all claimed that Republicans were revealing a secret hot plot against Hillary Clinton that was worse than Watergate, and they were getting a huge boost from Russian bots. So yeah, if you were wondering, like Russell was wondering, what memo? This memo, the memo that had to do with the good old representative from California, Devin Nunes. That's right. If you didn't remember, I figured I would let you know. But yes, it was a Friday, the shutdown of the government was looming. DACA was on the balance, and everybody was mad at Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a hashtag calling itself Release the Memo showed itself on Twitter, and they claimed that it was being amplified by Russian bots, and it was really bad and stuff. So, that's the man. If you guys remember that shit, do you remember? Does anybody remember that shit? Y'all remember that shit? Oh, fuck. I remember that shit. I remember it. Yep, I remember it. So, like, I don't know if anybody else remembers it, but I remembered it, and then Cherie just reminded me that I forgot to share this out onto the different platforms. My bad, I gotta do that real quick. So let me just bing. Okay, sharing it out. Okay, sharing it out. Perfect. Make sure you guys go out there and share this thing out too, because, you know, that's the way that we get it going. And you could see, you know, my live stream platform is doing pretty good, actually. And I can show you a little secret. So, like, now my desktop looks like this. It makes it a little bit easier for me to go through everything. And then I can still see and share stuff on one window without having to worry about it. And then I can check my DMs and stuff over here. So just, you know, put it out there, you know, just trying some new stuff, whatever. Trying to get some new stuff. What? Microchip is back? No, I didn't know. But if he is back, oh shit. Oh shit. But that's not what this is about today. Today it's about release the memo, right? Release the memo hypocrisy to undermine the Trump-Russia inquiry. Republicans want to release classified information. Okay. Right-wing trolls demand to release the memo endorsed by Russian bots. NBC News. Release the memo. Vice News. Here's just like a bunch of times that they talked about the classified leaking memo that was supposedly coming out. And it all started right around January 19th. Again, here's the Daily Beast on January 21st talking about release the memo. It's only a matter of time. And then, look at this. It's fucking Tracy Beans. She was even talking about release the memo. Right. Office of the Inspector General for immediate release January 12th. DIJ, OIG, invitation of review. Yeah, that was the memo that they were actually talking about. So now that you know what we're talking about, that I've given you a little bit of look into it, we can now take a second to look at Mr. Matt Taibbi's little bit of a thread here. And you can follow Matt Taibbi at @Taibbi right there. That's his Twitter account if you want to follow him. As you notice, I'm not following him, and that's because that bitch doesn't follow me back, and I ain't following nobody that ain't following me back. Suck it. I don't care if you're important. I don't care if you think you're important. It's called mutual respect. Mutual respect. At a crucial moment in a years-long fervor, Democrats announced a report about flaws in the Trump-Russia investigation, saying it was boosted by bots and Russian trolls. Nice. You guys, Twitter officials were aghast, finding no evidence of Russian influence. We are feeding congressional trolls, not any significant activity connected to Russia. Putting the cart before the hearse is assuming this is propaganda and boss. And then, yes, here we go. We actually have data coming from people. And this is a letter to Adam Schiff. Oh, yes, good old Adam Schiff getting kicked off his committees and shit. And then we also have Dianne Feinstein, another individual that seems to have had a lot of that. But yeah, you can see right here, we performed a preliminary analysis of available geographical data for tweets with the hashtag release the memo. Our initial inquiry based on the data has not identified any significant activity connected to Russia with respect to posting the original content to this hashtag. Damn. So what you're saying is that during the time that they said that there was a bunch of Russian trolls and shit going on, in actuality, Twitter wasn't able to find any information about Russian trolls, but that didn't actually seem to matter because, you know, we all got narratives and stuff. Yes, here's another one right here. Please respond. Shift to Dianne Feinstein. I think Lauren is right. He's putting the cart before the horse and assuming this is propaganda and bots. Yes. I guess we could all make assumptions about stuff, but, you know, maybe we are just feeding congressional trolls. That's what I think about it. Twitter warned politicians and media that not only lacked evidence, but the evidence the accounts were Russian were roundly ignored. On January 18, 2018, Republican Devin Nunes submitted a classified memo to the House Intel Committee detailing abuses by the FBI in obtaining a Pfizer surveillance authority against Trump-connected figures, including the crucial role played by the infamous Steele dossier. That was the discredited Steele dossier that was basically shown to be a hatchet job that was done by somebody who was being paid to create a hatchet job. Yeah. That's right. So are we looking for some kind of collapse coming up over here? You know, there's that pretty much declassified memo that got declassified in February of 2018, and yeah, it kind of seemed a little bit different. There was the one that was talking about Carter Page and his whole role in this whole thing, and then later on, in many years after the fact, we all found out that even the, you know, FISA warrant that was used to spy on people was basically taken under false pretenses. Yet, obviously, nobody ever gets in trouble with any of that stuff. So, Nunes' assertions would be virtually all be verified by a report from the Justice Department, General Michael Horowitz, in December of 2019. And yep, that's right. There was actually an executive summary done on the review of the FISA applications for Crossfire Hurricane, and yeah, potentially serious problems with the SEAL's descriptions, among other things, regarding the allegations attributed to person one. The primary source's accounting of these communications, if true, are not consistent with the, in fact, contradicted allegations of a well-developed conspiracy in reports 95 and 102 attributed to person one. It says, as noted above, the FBI filed 3 renewal applications for FIC on the January 12th, April 7th, and June 29, 2017. In addition to repeating the 7 significant errors contained in the first FISA application outlined above, we identified 10 additional significant errors in the 3 renewal applications based on information known to the FBI after the first application before one or more of the renewals. Yes, that was right. They had already checked and saw that they were basically they had already known that they put all of this together based on false pretenses, but there wasn't really a lot that they could do with it at that particular time. You know, we got a lot of these different executive summaries from the government that basically said it was all horse hockey bullshit, but now we're starting to see, well, what was Twitter's role in this whole entire situation? And as more fully described in Chapter 5, based upon information known to the FBI in October 2016, the first application contained the following 7 significant inaccuracies. Yes, significant inaccuracies. Also, we determined that the Crossfire Hurricanes team's receipt of the Steele election reporting on September 19, 2016 played an essential role. Right. So I guess that's probably one of the reasons that we saw all of the media reporting calling it a joke. Yeah, Nunes memo is a bad joke. MSNBC, The Hill, Andrea Mitchell, Nunes has turned the House Intel Committee into a joke. Opinion, Nunes' memo is out, and it's a joke and a sham. There's no smoking gun. RNC Chairman rips Nunes memo for the joke it is. Stealing the onion. You're mad. It's mad you're stealing its material. Oh, right. And then on January 23rd, 2018, Senator Dianne Feinstein and Congressional Congressman Adam Schiff published an open letter saying that the hashtag gained an immediate attention and assistance of social media accounts linked to Russian disinformation or Russian accounts. So it's another example of basically the Democrats, namely people like Dianne Feinstein and the now very discredited Adam Schiff, and how they utilize their words to basically lie to the American people. It's right there in front of your fucking face. Nobody could deny it at this point because we knew from the very beginning that it was not real. We also knew that Twitter was even saying that wasn't true. They were like, yeah, we do not agree with you, Adam Schiff, Nunes, whoever the fuck you are. We don't agree with that. And even more specifically, Tuesday, January 18, 2018, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence majority voted to allow members of the U.S. House of Representatives to review a misleading talking points memo authorized by Republican staff and selective references and distorts highly classified information. The Russ decision to make this document available to the full House of Representatives was followed by quick calls from some quarters to release the document to the public. Yeah. So on one end, they were trying to discredit Nunes over this whole entire thing, but on the other end, they were trying to say that it was much worse. Senator Blumenthal publishing a letter saying that we find it reprehensible that Russian agents are so eagerly manipulating innocent Americans, even though they never had any evidence that any type of Russian agent was ever doing there. They just decided to come up with it in their own brains and say, hey, it's the Russians that are doing this shit, right? It's the Russians. It was the Russians. So Feinstein, Schiff, Blumenthal, other members of the media all poured into the same freaking source. Hamilton 68 dashboard created by former FBI counterintelligence official Clint Watts under the auspices of Alliance for Securing Democracy. And yep, Release the Memo is now the top tracking hashtags among Russian bots on trolls on Twitter, according to Hamilton 68. Yep. All of their information came from one singleized source that didn't actually show that it was Russian bots. That just said that they were Russian bots. I've never seen any single hashtag with the amount of activity behind it, says Brett Schaefer, who is an analyst that runs the Hamilton 68 dashboard. Huh. Interesting. Release the Memo is top trending hashtag amongst Twitter accounts linked to Russian influence operations. Really? Because I thought it was the top hashtag linked to QAnon influence operations, but you know what? I could be wrong. Through the Hamilton 68 launch last summer, Morgan said that he felt comfortable in making a claim based on additional research and analysis. The deep state has been a constant talking point on the dashboard for months, but nothing like the past few weeks as the Release the Memo hashtag peaked. It went from 5% of the content back in September, where it was consistently around 15%. Wow. Russian bots did all that. I thought that was all like the QAnon people, the folks that were following Tracy Beans and watching Hagman, because, you know, like if you go back to these little queries or whatever, you can see, you know, Hagman report was talking about shit like this all the way back when. They were all up in arms about it. It was like the main talking point in the QAnon conspiracy sphere, no matter where you were coming from. And then, dude, even Lift the Veil, Release the Memo, Vegas press conference, Laura Loomer, he was even talking about this shit all the way back then. So, like, if they're trying to say that there is some kind of weird conspiracy of Russian trolls out there, nah, man, there was no Russian trolls. It was like Americans and shit. Are you trying to say that Sticks and Hexenham and Hammer 666 is a Russian troll or a Russian bot? Because, nah. He's just a white boy that doesn't like wearing a fucking shirt, which I don't even agree with. I mean, look at this, dude. If I go on here, I could go back 4 years, 11 months ago. Timothy Charles fucking Homeseth, QAnon, Denver interview, shadow government, Release the Memo. Wow. It's all of the QAnoners that were talking about this. Huh. Very, very intriguing when you really think about it. On one end, the news media itself was there. Holy shit, Titus Frost, Nunes, Train Cash, Release the Memo, Bitcoin FUD, Binance. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, it wasn't the Russian trolls, my dudes. I don't think it was Russian trolls. I could be wrong. But, you know, based on my limited expertise in understanding this, I should just go look and see if the QAnon posted this shit. QAlerts.app, right? And then we'll just search for Release the Memo. No. Take off the hashtag. Let's see. No. Let's see. Memo. Let's see how many times Memo is said. Me. Damn, they said Memo a lot of times. The fuck? 4 years ago. So yeah, Wise Pelisi's memory. Memo is only the beginning. Right here. So now everybody started talking about the memo because the memo was getting mentioned by QAnon, but the mentions for the memo didn't start happening until January 19th of 2018. There was a post right there made by your boy QAnon, and this is where it actually all started from. Okay, so I'm going to show you something here that you probably didn't realize, because a lot of people are applying this to being, I guess, somebody else's fault. Like specifically, terrible. I was trying to listen into her spaces earlier today, but you'll see that the details are not available. This is because I'm blocked by Tracy Beans, so I can't listen to the space after the fact. I can't do anything with it. It just shows up as a black box for me. But Tracy Beans claimed within this little hashtag thing, which I would have played for you, but as you can see, I am not able to get any details. I am not even able to play it because Tracy Beans has me blocked and she's spoken it. So, if we go here, it says Tracy Beans, who created the hashtag released the memo, began referencing in the Russiagate files, is in the space with us. That's right. Tracy Beans was in the space talking about these files because this was something that she was fully and wholly associated with, right? Because it wasn't QAnon first who actually posted about release the memo. QAnon didn't seem to have been putting any stock into it until a certain time. And then we can see that right here because right around post 560 is when this shit actually seems to get popped off. So if I go back to like 560, actually we just might as well, hold up. We'll just delete that. And then we'll search again, and then we're just going to have to scroll down to 560. Fuck, it's going to take forever, bro. Wait, is there like a way to sort by number? I don't know. Nope, that doesn't seem to work. All right, whatever. Wait, if I click here. Yeah. We'll just go down. So we got to go around 560. So it's kind of funny when you think about it. Ah, here we go. I didn't take that long, actually. Cool. So it was 560 posts that this person was actually started talking about it. You could see here, though, that January 19th was QAnon, like, over there, all into it. In a little bit, you know, we were getting D classes and stuff. And mind you, this is exactly around the same time that Patriot Soapbox, Tracy Beans, and that little group are basically in control of this whole entire thing. So, Russian disinformation thing or something associated with the QAnons? Because originally, all of the talk about the QAnon memo or all the talk about the memo was around January 18th. And you can see that there was a lot of stuff that was getting posted around that time. So put that into perspective while I pull up the next little article from Politico. Because even Politico magazine was investigating this and they were talking about how the Twitter bots and Trump made release the memo go viral. So, Politico didn't say that it was Russian bots. It said that it was Twitter bots, just Twitter bots and Trump fans that made it go viral. And when you go through here and you read through it, they actually gave us a nice little piece of information here about where the hashtag actually fucking originated. So in that space, Tracy Beans is all saying that she created that shit and it was her shit. But that's actually not true. The hashtag originated from a username Under the Moraine on January 18th next to tweet tags of the president, and the account Under the Moraine most recently named Lois Lerner's testimony, whose bio references the Lerner testimony in MAGA, is currently marked as restricted for unusual activity. And as you can see, somebody actually did a trace on where all that shit started, and it wasn't actually Tracy that started that shit. Although she got blamed for it because, well, lots of reasons. And if you ever looked at our Twitter thread on Tracy Beans, then you realize that Tracy was neck deep in this entire QAnon conspiracy theory from basically the second that it moved over from 8chan all the way up until March, maybe even May of that year, because, you know, she was one of the main proponents of folks saying that, oh, I started something, it was me, even though there's actual data that says the direct opposite was there. And you know what? All of the QAnon people that they were claiming were Russian bots were actually just QAnon people. So think about that. We got to take that into perspective for a lot of it, because Twitter had a whole lot of things to do with this. I think, Alliance for Securing Democracy with Twitter. The dashboard, which featured a crude pic of Vladimir Putin blowing evil red birds into the atmosphere, was vague on how it reached its conclusions, right? They were saying that it was Vladimir Putin that was running all of this stuff, but it wasn't. It was actually YouTubers, social media influencers, and all the people associated to the QAnon conspiracy theory that were making it go even more viral than it was that were actually associated to it. Yeah. Inside Twitter executives panned Watts, Hamilton 68, and the Alliance for Securing Democracy. Two key complaints: Hamilton 68 seemed to be everyone's only source, and no one was checking with Twitter. I encourage you to be skeptical of Hamilton 68's take on this, which, as far as I can tell, is the only source for these stories. Yeah. It's also a comms play for ASD. They made a very strong media push piggyback on Clint's testimony that didn't actually have any take in reality, right? Because they were just like, yeah, it's Russian bots. Yeah, we can see it's Russian bots. Really? Because Twitter looked at their actual account activity and they're not Russian bots. Well, Twitter's fucking full of shit. They don't know nothing about how Twitter works. Fucking Twitter. All the swirl around Release the Memo is based on Hamilton 68, which is based on raw tweet count, would be able to broadly refute with actually sharing anything too sensitive. Yoel Roth, Director of Public Trust and Safety at Twitter. Yee! Yeah. So, back in the day, Twitter was pretty clear that it wasn't Russian bots, but the government and people in the government, basically government trolls, wanted it to make it into Russian bots, but it wasn't Russian bots. It was the QAnon people who, in the vast majority at the very beginning, were nothing but Americans, which is why Twitter couldn't find any Russian bots in the fucking first place, and why Hamilton 68 would have never been able to figure that shit out in the first place either. They're just like, oh, all these QAnon accounts are fucking Russian trolls. Yeah, if ASG isn't going to fact check us, we should feel free to correct the record on their work, according to Carlos Monye. Yes, Mr. Monye. Isn't that just a spicy little meatball right there? Roth couldn't find any connections to Release the Memo at all. I just reviewed the accounts that posted the first 50 tweets of the Release the Memo, and none of them show any signs of any affiliation with Russia. Yeah, it's like that. That's how deep they have it on you guys. We investigated and found engagement is overwhelmingly organic and driven by very important tweeters, including WikiLeaks and Congressman Steve King. That's right. Yes, sir. That's right. They didn't care about what you thought. They don't care about what you thinking. They don't care about what you're drinking. What they care about is what they're telling you to think about. So, as you go deeper into this little vexing story that we're all finding ourselves interconnected with, you can see that it was only the very important tweeters, it was only the people associated with QAnon that made this thing go viral, and that's what scared the absolute bejesus out of people, which is why they were freaking out and trying to establish that it was a Russian conspiracy, because they had never seen ever a group of individuals collectively come together and make something go viral like this outside of usage of 4chan, 8chan, and the like. Staffer for DeFi, Feinstein, agreed it would be helpful to know how Hamilton 68 goes by the process in which it decides an account is Russian, but after Feinstein published her letter about Russian influence. Yeah, she's going to publish her letter, and then we might think about doing something with it later on, but it doesn't really matter, though. It's those damn Russians, though. Those fucking Russians, man. See, you see how they've been latently programming you for a long time to be so anti-Russia for very many years. It's like they've been setting up this Ukraine-Russia conflict for us for a long time, because it's always been Russia bad. It's always been, let's help out Ukraine good, and Vladimir Putin is the devil. And they were blaming Vladimir Putin for all kinds of shit, like Twitter bots and the like, hashtags and stuff, even though it was pretty easily verifiable that that was complete bullshit. And we showed you live, but Now we're showing you again and then just giving you a historical background on what happened, because this is exactly how this shit went down, right? When we spoke to Blumenthal staffer, they tried to wave him off because we don't believe these are bots. Yeah. Yeah, we don't believe they're bots. Another inquiry says that nudging Blumenthal staffers, that since that they've been monitoring this from the get-go, have little reason to believe it's a big Russian propaganda movement, that it could be the boss's best interest not to go there because this could be come back to him and make him look silly. Again, I would do it in a nuanced way. If you go this path, it hits the bottom. It hits at the hubris, the driver of these public calls. Yeah, that's right. Because the people at Twitter were pretty clear about this being very not true and saying, hey, eventually you guys are going to be made to look like assholes and it's not going to be our fault. Do you think that the people at Twitter ever had the foresight? They thought, see, just to be clear, the people at Twitter thought that them coming out and dropping the kibosh on them was going to be the whole making them look silly. But in actuality, all of them are being made to look silly right now because, you know, we got the Twitter files. These reporters are releasing the emails and stuff like that between these people. We're seeing that they're so full of shit. God, they're so full of poop. Yeah. And, you know, Doc Matrix, I get you. Those damn Russians coming over here and making our cheese in Wisconsin and potatoes in Idaho. Those bastards. Those bastards. Yes. Twitter executives tried to negotiate implied an undisclosed future for the PR concession if Blumenthal would lay off this. It seems like there are other wins we could offer him. Yo, Senator Blumenthal, you looking for a different kind of win? We could offer you a different kind of win. That's true, but then they're not actually showing who's offering the win. Is that Yoel Roth offering the win, or is that Lauren Culbertson or Culbertson? Yeah, Culbertson? Yeah, it's probably it. Blumenthal published his letter anyway, by the way, and executives eventually grew frustrated as they saw a circular process presented with claims of Russian activity, even when denied, led to increased amounts of claims of Russian activity. And they expressed this explicitly to Blumenthal's camp, saying that Twitter spent a lot of resources on this request, and the reward for Blumenthal should be round after round of requests. We can't do a user notice each time this happens. Yeah, because if it ain't happening, why do they gotta do a notice? You know? Can you do that? Can you do that? You do that? Apparently, it's really, for some people, they can't do that one. They can do this one or that one. It's harder for me to do that one. Harder for me to do my left one. It's hard to do the left one. Hee. All right, yeah. Eventually, Twitter staff realizes Blumenthal isn't looking for a real and nuanced solution, but just wants to get credit for pushing us further. Yeah, they're just pushing us. They were just pushing Twitter. Ultimately, senior executives talked about feeding congressional trolls and compared their situation to the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. You know what? I can agree with that. I gave a mouse a cookie one time. That little motherfucker was like living under my sink for the longest time or whatever. Until I poisoned him with rat poison. But yes, in the story, if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk, which will lead to another wave of exhausting requests. And at the end, he'll want a glass of milk and one more cookie. Yes. Give me another cookie. Give me another glass of milk, please. Can you get me all this other crap? The metaphor for the endless request was so perfect. One exec wrote, I'm legit embarrassed that I didn't think of that first. Yep. I am legit embarrassed that we didn't think of that first. But they did. They did. And despite the universal internal conviction that there were no Russians in the story, Twitter went on to follow a slavish pattern of not challenging Russia claims on the record. They just ended up being mum the word because they didn't want to create any waves with the government types that were all right up in their little buttocks on this one. Outside counsel from DC connected firms like Debbie Vos and Pimpleton advised Twitter to use language like, with respect to particular hashtags, we take seriously any activity that may represent abuse on the platform, but we're not actually going to say anything else outside of that. We don't see it, but basically, as y'all already know, we work with the FBI. If they want us to fucking take your ass out, we gotta take your ass out. Yeah. Think about that. Think about that. Think about it. It's just so insidious. As a result, reporters from the AP to Politico to the Rolling Stone to continue to hammer the Russian bot theme despite the total lack of evidence. And yes, that's it. You know, we saw so many of these different based hashtags that are out here. Everybody was talking about this Hamilton 68 information, but the reality is that it was far from the truth. And I mean, Russians weren't blamed for just release the memo, but for Schumer shutdown, Parkland shooting, even gun control now to widen the divide, right? They were blaming Russian trolls and accounts like for all these other hashtags that were going viral, which all individually could be connected back to influence operations that were happening in the United States, namely anybody associated with QAnon or even adjacent to that in any way, because they were all looking into that. All of the channels that were talking about QAnon were utilizing all these hashtags to increase their virality quotient. Yeah. Schumer shut down and released the memo. The internal guidance was both hashtags appear to be trending organically, and that's because they were all organically getting picked up through the QAnon channels, and then it was getting fed through YouTube and Twitter and Facebook without the QAnon stamp on it to hundreds and thousands of people, which created the groundswell in every single indication. Hook, line, sinker. QAnon did it. Fucking every other hashtag did it. This particular hashtag, though, released the memo, was the first indication that they tried to do it that just so happens to contain, and even we have audio from Tracy Beats today saying, I started that hashtag. It was my hashtag. I started it. I'm the one that's good at getting shit viral. No, actually, it wasn't you. We know who started it, and it wasn't fucking you. Yes, it wasn't fucking you. And just to come down here, you know, it originated from Twitter user Under the Moraine. Hey, we should go check out that Twitter account, shouldn't we? Yeah, let's go check out that Twitter account. Why not? Under the Moraine. Under the Moraine. Right there, Lois Lerner's testimony. Joined April 14th, or April 2014. Released the Lois Lerner testimony to help Vega. 36 followers. Following 7 people. John B. Wells, Richard Stinnett, Donald Trump. John B. Wells, huh? Caravan to Midnight, Dallas, Texas. Isn't this John B. Wells guy also associated with lots of other conspiracy theories as well? Let's see who's following this fucking account. Anybody cool? I don't see anybody cool. Looks like a bunch of normal ass motherfuckers. So, in reality, it was an account like this that made something like that go viral, or the first one that talked about it. So this was the account that started it. Does that look like a Russian bot to you? No, it doesn't. Look at the last tweets. August 2016, January 24, when Secret Society isn't trending. Twitter shadow propaganda. Wednesday Wisdom. Release the memo. Release the text. Release the testimony. Under the Moraine to Donald Trump. January 23rd. Let's just go all the way down, see if we can get to the original tweet. Here we go. Now, let's see. We'll just take ourselves up 16th, 17th, 18th. It should be coming up now. Retweeted Donald Trump. Should be no surprise that the libs, DACA, all of that stuff. Notice how we haven't seen it yet. Did they get rid of the tweet? Did they get rid of it? No. Release the memo. House Intelligence Committee. Our democracy is in jeopardy. At Real Donald Trump. Hashtag POTUS. Democrats all voted no on release to the public. That doesn't seem to have anything to do with Tracy Beans. And it was like a whole day before all that shit happened. But they associated it to her. I see. And that's how the game is actually played, my friends. That's how they actually play the game. You see how that works? NBC, Politico, AP, Times, Business Insider, and other media outlets who played up the Russian bot story, even the Rolling Stones, all declined to comment on Matt Taibbi's story, and the staffs of Feinstein, Fish, and Blumenthal also declined to comment. And who did comment? Well, Nunes did, and he said Schiff and the Democracy falsely claimed that Russians were behind the recent Memo. Hashtag all of my investigative work being by spreading Russia collusion hoax. They insisted on one of the greatest outbreaks of mass delusion in United States history. Yep. Well, actually, the greatest delusion or mass outbreak of delusion was QAnon, but the Russiagate hoax is definitely a quick second for sure. So that's basically the second iteration of the Twitter files. And as you can see, we did spend a lot of time trying to associate at least a few different things to you about this particular thing. It's mass formation psychosis, and it happens on both sides. It's not like it's one side or the other side that was going on, but there's a lot to be said about what's been happening and what we've been seeing, because not only have we seen disingenuous operations from social media platforms like Twitter where they see the same thing that we saw, that it was an organic hashtag started by the people that got picked up by QAnon influencers that basically made it go viral in less than a day. And now they associate it to those QAnon or they would rather associate it to Russians, but it was most clearly a completely different group of individuals that were actually pushing the whole scene. And when you look at it, you can see all the artifacts at that time where it was right after Tracy Beans started posting about it and incessantly making it a part of her channel that QAnon even started saying anything about it. And it was because of this particular event that went down that all of a sudden somebody very much later had to make a message about, like, be careful who you follow. There's grifters and shit out there. And interestingly enough, on Google Books, if I did a little search, and there's a book called Pastels and Pedophiles Inside the Mind of QAnon by Mia Bloom and Sophia Moselenko, and there's actually a result that does talk about not only Tracy Beans, but fucking release the memo, bro. Yeah, but it's interesting how this book that's reported to be a very, very good look into QAnon, look at how it says or discusses this shit specifically. So one of the more surprising consequences of QAnon has been the unintended backlash against Russia, one of the countries that amplified QAnon content on social media in an attempt to weaken U.S. institutions and erode people's trust in the government and media. Russian government-backed social media accounts nurtured QAnon conspiracy theories into its infancy using bots and sock accounts. From November 2017 on, QAnon was the single most frequent hashtag tweeted by the accounts that Twitter had identified as Russian-backed, with the term used some 17,000 times. QAnon confirmed. Sorry. Russian accounts amplified and promoted Pizzagate, then turned into promoting Tracy Beans, tweeting instructional videos on how to locate Q drops and posted to her YouTube channel about deciphering breadcrumb Q drops with trips, tweets, or speeches. Russia and China use a variety of contrivances as a part of their misinformation toolkit. Russian bots boosted the hashtag released the memo on Twitter within 3 months of the birth of QAnon in 2017. But Russia now has a QAnon problem of its own. Silicon Valley deplatformed many QAnon accounts as QAnon shifted to semi-encrypted network platforms like Telegram, as had ISIS did when they had been deplatformed in December of 2015. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? Even in these books, they're still following the totally debunked Hamilton 68 data that was literally parroted by every single news media personality trying to push the Russiagate lie. This is the kind of direct shit that you should really look into, because we can see exactly how insidious all of this is and how they decidedly put all this together so that they could basically control everything that we had to say about it. And if you don't believe me, I mean, here's illicit notes, missing text, missing memos, Tracy Beans, Field McConnell, Peter Burry, Choka, Hagman report. It was Doug Hagman and these entire groups of people that were pushing all the QAnon disinformation and utilizing it so that they could get even more groundswell out of it. And once you start realizing, 2 followers and 8 watching, soon to be 7. That thanks, Jariah's Ghost. I appreciate that, Mr. Rumble Guy. Yeah, we were originally streaming to just our account. We didn't realize you actually had to make a channel on Rumble. And then some cocksucker already stole my name because, you know, people can't just leave me alone and let me be myself or whatever. They gotta bite on my shit because they think they're better than me, or I think it's just because they're like pieces of shit. I think it's just because they're like garbage, human garbage. But yeah, if you don't believe me, release the memo featuring Tracy Beans, 1/19/2018. As soon as we signed off for a show after 5 days since our favorite announced and spotted Q unleashed the fury, Twitter made the release the memo trend. Tonight we'll talk about bringing the unwashed message to a fevered pitch. This includes an updated timeline surrounding events of FISA, the recap of last night's show, and a call from Tracy Beans. Yeah, he quite frankly, just had to get her ass on the show. They just had to get her ass on the show in order to get him on there, though. And you can see the videos unavailable. And then, you know, just for all you QAnon people, you definitely remember the STG report as being one of the biggest QAnon accounts that existed. You see what I was saying here? Was it Russian bots? No. It wasn't Russian bots. It was Tracy Diaz and her friends utilizing SEO clerks to purchase follows, likes, and retweets for their posts to help it go even more viral, or at least just to help it go viral. That's essentially what we should all be talking about. Yeah. So just take some time to think about where this goes and how this is how this was supposed to actually go down, because not a lot of people realize that this was, you know, how deep it was. And I think that it's important to add some of the other historical context, because once you start going back into how this thing actually went viral, well, it was because of the Beans and Doug Hagman and folks like that, for the very same reason that the QAnon stuff started going viral, because people like the Beans and stuff, you know? And don't forget that, you know, the honeybee Melissa Zakaria and Tracy Beans did a fucking scam with a documentary called Kids Inc. that they never put out, that nobody ever seems to fucking talking about. But then again, where are we at? Hagman report. It's always the Hagman report. Oh, Tracy Beans' response, pamphlet slips up 4 years, 7 months ago. It was only just a few months after that Tracy Beans exited herself rather famously from the QAnon conspiracy theory after it was found that she was one of those folks that was part of the control group, right? It was part of the control group. And then I also tell people that, hey, you should probably remember that we did a fantastic thread on Tracy Diaz, aka Tracy Beans, that goes over her history, the Wayback Machine, her Liberty Movement radio when she was more libertarian, democratic, atheist, and then all of a sudden turned into God and country type stuff. But essentially, you can see that this is a consistent thing that's happening here. You know, this is a person that's been trying to do this for a very long time, and they utilize QAnon, they utilize the Seth Rich conspiracy theory in order to basically fucking make themselves into a household name.
I let it go after that. To be honest with you, Defango saw the same thing. I don't know that dude. I don't like work with him or anything, but like we haven't even spoken personally. But he did the same thing. So I was like, okay, you know, you're doing the same thing. So I just was like, hey, shout out to you. You did the same thing. And then the craziness happened with him and Defango. The difference with Defango is he has a set of balls like none I've ever seen, and he will just put people on blast.
And remember, it wasn't that long after that, May 2015, 2018, that this whole QAnon thing went up, when we actually had gotten messages from Tracy Diaz that she was basically saying that she was doing targeted content for individuals for money. So just to put all of that perspective into it for you so that you can actually take a look at what was really going on and how all of this stuff happened. As you can see, once the QAnon stuff popping up, somebody's channel exploded, and it was only just a few months after this that the release the Memo hashtag thing came out. And sure, people could claim that they were in charge of it or whatever, but, you know, the actuality of what happened is far from what is being seen today. So just take some time, take a look at it, go investigate this shit for yourselves, because you'll start to realize and remember that there's a lot more going on. There's a lot of gullible people in the news media that are more than willing to just lie because it fits their narrative, which is essentially the exact same thought operational process that our friends over in the QAnon conspiracy were running off of, because, you know, oh, well, it sounds good in my brain and it fits what I think about, so I'm going to just say that it's going to be true. And now you can see how crazy all of this shit is when you really think about it. It takes a very, very strong mind in order to manipulate other strong minds into doing all of this. But once you have enough strong minds in control, you'll finally see how easy it is to actually get something like this moving forward. So that's basically the short and skinny of the entire situation for today. Hopefully we'll get some more interesting drops coming out from this, you know, Twitter files thing. We're still waiting on the Fauci files, but let us know what you guys think in the comment sections below. And thank you for joining us today, because I'm sure that this was just a journey into all of the old names that we already knew. And now we have a pretty solid case that we were right all the way back then. Again, thank you so much. See you guys later. Much love out there, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Later. Show's over. Go away. Go home. Or not. Do whatever you want to do. Or whatever. You dang Russian bots. Y'all are freaking Russian bots. No, you're not Russian bots.